better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romancing the Podcast. Ooh, ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, ah, I'll have what she's having.
Return to Me, or Mimi Driver dresses like a Mormon, but acts like an Italian.
But also an Irish woman?
We
woman.
got to get into that, but let's start the episode
Let's
first.
just get
That would have been a
Let's get
good
into it.
laugh
Come on,
line.
let's go.
If we did laugh lines, that would have worked so good.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at, hello, I'm Paige West.
It's a me, I'm right to the pod.
It's me, Amanda Driver.
It's a me, I'm Irish.
I'm sorry, did you just say that your name is Irish? And I guess my name is Todd. And this week, we watched an ethnically ambiguous movie called Return to Me. Now, I picked this movie. Can we talk quickly about why I picked it?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's PG and your parents let you watch it when you were a child?
Yes, that is true. And that is the last time I saw it, was when I was a child-ass child. So when I asked online what we should do and this movie came up and I remembered the premise, I was like, there's no way that movie is good. It's about a guy whose wife dies tragically. Her heart goes into Minnie Driver and then they fall in love. I was like, there's no way that movie is actually good.
Right.
And I'm here to say, fucking loved this movie.
Oh, yes.
I cried
It's not bad.
top to bottom, man. It was so
I sobbed through
good.
this whole film.
But it is like a Mikey movie premise. Like, that is a nuts
Yes.
premise.
They do it well.
They do.
Okay, so here's my favorite part is that, like, they don't treat it as silly. They're like,
No.
oh,
No,
you have
completely
his
serious.
wife's heart, and everybody's like, oh.
And the gorilla knows, and that's totally
Oh,
logical.
but dude, the gorilla putting his hands up for Minnie Driver
Sob.
started crying
Sobbing.
so. I know.
Absolutely
Same.
sobbing.
Paige, I couldn't.
I did not cry today, but it's fine.
I cried so much during this movie. This movie touches the same part of me that While You Were Sleeping does.
Which part?
Tell me all about it.
Where they do have great chemistry and you are rooting for them and you love the like family unit she has around her.
Yeah.
This movie could absolutely be 20 minutes shorter.
100%.
100%. That's my only complaint, really.
Yeah, but a lot of that stuff is the old group, like the four guys
Yes.
that are in the old group. And
You mean All My Great Uncles? Yes.
and I love them so much. They're so funny together. I don't think 80% of their dialogue is scripted. I just think they just
I think they're
sat
just
down at the
arguing.
table, started playing cards, and they set up cameras and were like, we'll come back and watch this footage in 4 hours.
If you showed up to Thanksgiving when I was a child and just plunked a recorder in the middle of my great uncles playing cribbage,
Yes,
which would
exactly.
literally just be like 6 Angelos. This is the conversation you would capture, essentially.
Yeah.
Of them just like shouting at each other about Dean Martin, and you're like, he can't hear you. Like bragging that they knew Wayne Newton, you know.
No, but I loved when, like, she finally told him, he's like, I need to take a walk. And
Yeah.
then when she tells everybody else, they're like, huh. It was a very realistic way I think people would find. Like,
Just
they're like,
oh,
that makes, I really liked him, though. But yeah, that's,
I get why that'd be weird.
wow. Yeah.
The scene where Bonnie Hunt, who is like, I don't know her relationship to Minnie Driver. Is they're like cousins
I
or
think she's-
sisters or?
No, they're sister-in-laws. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure Bonnie Hunt's husband is Minnie Driver's brother.
Okay, that isn't super established, but maybe it was and I missed it, but I love Bonnie Hunt a lot.
Or cousin. He might be her cousin.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know either.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie Hunt wrote and directed this movie.
Bonnie Hunt directed this movie?
Yes! It's in the credits. I was losing my mind. I was like, Bonnie Hunt directed this? And then she was on screen and I was like, Bonnie Hunt's also in this.
Bonnie Hunt's great.
wow.
Yeah.
And especially from this time. She does this role in like 9 different movies and I love her in it.
Yes.
And a fun fact, not related to Helen Hunt, but both of them have played love interests of Tom Hanks in movies.
That is true.
Anyway.
That is true. Yeah, no, I mean, you could trim it. It would be the old guys. That's a lot of what would go.
Yeah.
Because it does hold up the pacing a little bit. And initially, the first couple scenes with them, you're like, why? But then when they really kind of like bring him in
Yeah.
to their crew and they're clearly rooting for him and trying to, I think that's one of the things I really do love about this movie is that like, there's no one trying to break them up.
No.
Everyone around them is invested in supporting them and them being together and them being happy. And similarly understands when like the big crazy thing happens. They're just like, oh shit.
You want to go to Italy?
Yeah, who would have saw that coming? Like, you know, I get why this is weird for you. Like, I understand why someone might be like, no, I don't think we should be together anymore. But like,
I do think David Duchovny's reaction to it, I really liked because he wasn't like mad. He didn't yell or anything. He was just like, oh my God, what are you saying? And then
I
he's
just
like,
need to process
yeah,
this.
Exactly. Yeah. And he literally is just like, I need to go for a walk. Like,
Yeah. No, I love that the film was so grounded and it felt real because most people most people shouldn't have unhealthy support systems that are like trying to break you up and stuff.
Yeah. And I do really love how those old dudes and the older lady who eventually marries one of the old dudes at the very end. Yeah, she's great. Like they are on board for David Duchovny and Minnie Driver literally 3 minutes after he walks in and meets them for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, like day one. And they've all tried to set her up with other people and they're like, we don't care. Clearly this is the guy. And we're committed to it. And we're going to like make them a patio and like play romantic music for them. Like everyone just wants them to be happy. And it makes it so charming. And it makes you cry even more.
It does,
the whole
man.
movie.
The one thing I wanted that we didn't get was, because it's set up that her granddad is going to follow over. Like he bought a golden ticket to Italy as well that he's going to use in the fall to go see her. And they do have that scene right before we see David Duchovny has gone.
Right.
And I wanted him to be like, here's the ticket I was going to use.
Yes.
Go get her.
Yeah.
Which there's not like a financial reason for David Duchovny not going because he's rich as shit too.
Yeah,
but like
he's
the
rich.
gesture of that would have made me sob. I mean, I was already crying anyway. I love this fucking movie.
I think he did that. I think I just assumed he gave him that ticket.
Yeah.
If you told me that was just like it ended up on the cutting room floor, I'd be like, yeah, of course it did.
My favorite scene is her telling the waiter randomly the story. And he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, like I think I'm gonna take my break now.
It's David Duchovny telling David Alan Grier and Minnie Driver telling the waiter, and we don't see them tell the story to that person. We just see their reaction. And literally the waiter's like, because when Minnie Driver's at the Italian cafe where she was painting or trying to paint, the waiter's like, what's wrong? And she goes, it's a long story. And he goes, well, I'll take my break. And then it cuts to David Alan Grier having just heard the story being like, oh God, really? And then it cuts back to the waiter.
And he's like, so he was married. And then like...
It's just really good. Like,
and the next time it cuts back to him, he's just like,
Mamma Mia.
Yeah, Mamma Mia.
He just says, Mamma Mia. And then she just goes, see.
This movie is just like someone was like, what is the craziest rom-com movie on the blacklist right now?
Right.
And let's make a super earnest attempt at making that movie. And they nail it. Like, they crush it. I love it.
It's either that or this actually happened to someone because of how human it feels. Or like that person wrote it.
But that's fair. And this sort of does have the Vow vibes to me. Like, the premise feels just as insane as that movie. So, like, it could. Who knows?
Except that this movie feels a lot more realistic than The Vow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely does. And this is the one that is not real.
Can I pitch a crazier version of this movie that I just thought about?
Yes.
So the wife works in the ape enclosure. Yes.
Oh, God.
She lives.
Okay.
Minnie Driver is the one who gets in the accident. She needs a heart. And then meanwhile, there's something wrong at the zoo. The gorilla is dying. And they're like, there's one chance to save this one lady with this gorilla heart.
Coming this fall. Gorilla heart.
Gorilla heart. So they put the gorilla heart into Minnie Driver and she survives. And then she and the wife become best friends because she realizes she has the heart of the gorilla. And now she can finally say thank you for all the things the wife did.
Amy needs heart.
Amy need transplant. Amy need 1 bedroom, 2 bath, Manhattan lower. Yeah, or I guess it's Chicago, not New York.
I mean, who knows? It's not like there's any architecture of any significance in this movie. So
I mean,
it's gotta be Chicago.
They do say it's Lincoln Park, so it is Chicago.
I honestly love Lincoln Park.
It stars with one ape. I
don't know why. It doesn't even matter when Duchovny's wife dies.
That makes sense that he built those uninspired after she died because that's what the city looks like.
I do love when the gorilla climbs up to the top of it and he like beats his chest or whatever. We do see the Chicago skyline right there. I'm like, all right, that's a better view than I have. And he's an ape. So like, awesome.
I mean, in my notes, I was like, could he escape?
I honestly don't know, Paige.
I once had a friend be like, why do people get so upset about like hunting lions and stuff like that? And I was like, because there's 10,000 lions and 8 billion people. It's like supply and demand. So like, no, I'm going to go ahead and hit the ejection seat on this joke.
No, Mikey, because we've talked about this story before, but the last time we did, it was when we did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And you and I argued that there's an inconvenient truth that we got to eat 1 billion people.
This is literally the conversation that's sparked you are not for like saving the planet unless you are also a cannibal. Like that is this conversation. We can't have it again.
Yeah.
We cannot have it again.
Like,
don't you want to be carbon neutral, Todd?
No, not if I have to eat people, Paige.
Wow. So you don't care about the environment?
We're not doing it. I can't. Just go listen to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 episode of The Horror Virgin to get this conversation.
Cut this out.
I'm not gonna.
But is people.
That should be their slogan.
I mean, do we want to talk right now about the cultural ambiguity that exists in this film, or do we want to wait till it's introduced in the film?
I guess it is cultural ambiguity and not ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah, it's two different kinds of white people.
I know, but I love that podcast. If you know Ethnically Ambiguous, it's a very good podcast. So anyway, I like to use that phrase whenever I can. But you're right, it is more cultural because they are very Irish, right? But the restaurant is Italian, correct?
Yes. So I have some context
So,
here.
Paige, my question is, how offended were you as an Italian woman by this Irish family's appropriation of your food culture?
So here's the thing, Todd. Like many Italians and American, I am also Irish. It is one of the most common mixes there is. It's two groups of people that arrived in this country very, very poor and very persecuted at the time, who drank a lot and were loud. And so they got along together. And now there's a whole bunch of us mixed ones. And so they come in like a couple different fun varieties where you got like my type, the like light skin, dark hair, pretty common. Or there are people who look like full-blown red hair, freckle Irish, but then they're just like, it's me, Gianni D'Amato. And you're just like, what the fuck happened there? Like,
are you sure it's not Johnny O'Reilly?
No, I have very good friends who are also Italian Irish, a lot of them. And one of them is like Lou Miziano, and he looks like me, but is Italian Irish. I have a coworker, and his name is Jordan with a D, very Italian last name. I'm not going to blow up his spot. He's not a comic or anything. And he is full red hair, freckles, like full blown looks Irish. Now, in my experience, even though a lot of people are mixed, usually, and again, this is just my experience, other people have experienced different things, I'm sure, you end up culturally one way or the other based on whichever family is bigger or louder, like, you know, whatever. So,
and that can be a toss up with those two groups.
That can be a toss up with those two groups.
Yeah.
In my experience, I would say we were raised more culturally Italian, where that's kind of what we identified more as. However, my grandmother, Patricia, a very Irish name, was definitely also Irish and would just occasionally be Irish, where like around St. Patty's Day, she was very Irish, or sometimes she would like make mashed potatoes with coins in it and forget to tell us that they were there. That was super Irish. Like 90% of the time Italian. And then every once in a while I'll be like, we've got corned beef hash today.
And you'd be like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Before we got on this call, or at least before we started recording, we were talking about, now that I've moved into my house, I have inherited a lot of my grandmother's things. And one of her Irishisms is something that I inherited. To give you a little context, my grandmother had dementia, and so she had this lawn gnome, or a lawn leprechaun, I should say, that she painted and then put it in her guest bathroom shower to dry, and then kept forgetting it there. And I was a teenager and an asshole, and so I then started moving the leprechaun around the house. So I would like put it in the microwave, or like tuck it into her bed, or like steal her car keys and then like put it in the front seat and then replace her car keys, or like put it in the washer and dryer. And then she would call my mom and be like, why is that little shitbird moving my stuff? So like that was a thing. And then when when my grandmother passed recently, I was gifted a very heavy box. And inside it, I was just greeted with this.
Oh my God. That has to be the gnome of which you spoke.
It is the leprechaun of which I spoke.
Yeah.
She painted it, so he's got a very coppery.
It literally is a copper beard. It's not red. It is copper.
And a gold satchel. And she like painted eyelashes on him. But the deal is, since I moved him around her house forever, he has to have a place to live in my house forever. So now he lives with me. But all this to say,
if it ever moves on its own, you have to like kick it out.
If it ever moves on its own, I'm just going to be like, I had that coming. But yes, the Italians and Irish be mixing in weird ways. And I think that's what this restaurant is.
Yes.
Half Irish pub, half Italian restaurant. Because the Italian food looks good.
So you're saying it's got the body of an Irish, but the heart of an Italian?
The heart disease of an Italian, yes, probably.
Well, I mean, they do. Like, that's how her mother dies, and she clearly has a bum heart, too.
Yeah. The mixing of, like, corned beef and cabbage alongside pasta, not too wild about, but a restaurant that serves both, I'm okay with.
Oh, and they make it sound like the food there is, like,
amazing.
Great. Yeah, and I would definitely check it out.
Except the 2 times you see the food, it didn't look that great.
The pasta looks good. The cabbage looked cabbagey, and I'm not a big cabbage person in general.
I love cabbage.
I would never judge a restaurant by its cabbage.
I wouldn't. Although they did have one thing.
Mikey's face looks so offended.
Growing up, we used to go to, like specific Italian restaurants around town or whatever. Like when you're raised culturally Italian, you end up at a lot of Italian places. And so there was this restaurant that, much like this restaurant, would just have a band playing Italian songs in Italian.
Like live?
Yes, live.
That's cool.
And it was like this guy who was like 90 years old, where he's like singing Volare, and you're like, he's gonna keel over any second. Like he is gonna pass out into someone's gnocchi, and then that's gonna be it. But my grandma loved it, and so we used to go there. It was in like San Jose.
All right. Well, do you guys want to get into the movie so we can talk about it scene by sad scene?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's Chicago. It opens on the skyline. I looked at how long this movie was, and I was like, 2 hours? Fucking damn it, Todd.
Oh, yeah. I was like, Jesus, 2 hours. I was like, I got to go to the cleaners.
That is actually the truth. Mikey, we had to delay recording, so Mikey could go to the cleaners today.
If it was an hour and a half, I don't even have to text y'all. I had to like wait. I paused the movie before I sent that message. I was like, wait a minute.
I got to do some math real quick.
Yeah. And I was like, pause. And I was like, what the fuck are they going to do now? I was like, they were already like super dating 45 minutes in.
Well, and they also have to like establish David Duchovny and his wife at the beginning of the movie as like a happily married couple. So that takes up some time, you know?
It does, but they do it quickly. Like they don't waste any time on it.
No. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done that. Obviously, I think they should have, but it takes like 25 minutes.
Yes.
What if this movie had started with her getting the heart transplant? We never even met David Duchovny until he comes into her life through like the restaurant or whatever. And then we find out when David Duchovny finds out that she got his dead wife's heart. That would have been a remember me level reveal. Like I would have lost my mind.
I don't know that I would dislike that though. Here's the thing. I do like the movie as is in regards to his first wife.
Yes.
Because I do love that we see that they love each other. They support each other's passions. Like they are happy together.
Yeah.
And it makes it understandable why he's so fucking devastated when it happens.
It is,
that's one of the things that just makes me cry buckets in this movie. And it makes it all the more meaningful when he does fall in love with her, because you're just like, that heart was his the whole time. And you're just like,
David Duchovny is so attractive in this movie that his first wife's heart couldn't stop beating for him. Like they tried to just bury her. They were like, well, we're going to have to give this heart to somebody because it won't stop.
Yeah, no, we're going to have to put it in this canopic jar. And if you open it, she's going to bring about the 10 plagues of Egypt.
I don't know. He had a lot of blood on him after the car wreck. I think it just popped out, and that was just a convenient thing.
I know, but it wouldn't stop beating. That's what I'm saying.
And it caught on fire at one point. It was wild.
Kalima!
Yeah.
I do think that meeting the wife, helps you ground his grief a little bit more.
Yes.
And it's not the 20 minutes I would cut out of the movie. if that makes sense.
No.
I think you could, but I think it doesn't become as impactful when you find out at the end.
It changes the movie in that we would sort of see the reveal when David Duchovny hears about it, and that to me is less sweet than what we get. Like, it's more of a shock. You know what I'm saying?
I think he acts pretty well in this when they
all
drop him off and he just starts sobbing.
Dude, when he is explaining to his dog that his wife is not coming home because the dog stays by the door until the wife gets home.
Oh, heartbreaking.
I haven't cried that hard since we lost Pupcake. It was like so sad to me.
It was so tough.
Natalie fell asleep while we were watching something else last night. And so I switched over and started watching this. And I was just lying next to my beautiful girlfriend who was asleep, trying not to shake so much because I'm crying so hard at this movie.
I watched this in my office after Jake went to sleep.
Isn't that a fun sentence to say? God, Paige, I'm so happy for you in the house.
It's so nice.
Congrats.
But I'm just like alone in this room full of boxes, just like sobbing. And the cat's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what are you up to, lady? Anyway.
All I can picture now, Paige, and I'm so sorry, is every heart transplant is just the guy from Temple of Doom pulling out the heart and then putting it in the other person's heart. And I've been thinking about that since I yelled Kali Ma, and I've been struggling not to yell it.
But just like shoving it down into another person.
Exactly.
But you guys, it's the same scene. It's just he's got those purple latex gloves on.
Well, you got to be hygienic, right? Yeah. But I didn't realize that it's like in surgeon school, it was just like different Kali Ma spells that you're learning.
I'm just picturing them prepping him for surgery, and he's got like the gloves, and they're like tying, but the drumming and everything is still happening. And then he just goes.
They gotta put the bone crown on his head before he goes in. Yeah.
But everything else is just like a surgeon, like mask, gown, bone crown. But they're playing like drums behind them, like Kodo Japanese style drums.
More drums, nurse.
10 cc's of drums. Stat. Wait, do you need an amount of drums, or do you want me to play like 10 cc? Like,
shut up, woman, do it.
And then he just goes over to the person giving the and just like Pringles his hand into their chest and like grabs the heart, catches it on fire, and then just goes cauterized, and then like
and then shoves it into somebody else.
Shoves it into the other person. Yeah.
So, doctor, how long does the operation take place? Oh, I mean, it's honestly a full heart transplant. I don't know, 6 minutes?
Yes. Yeah. How long is this drum solo? Have you heard like a really long Pantera song? I feel like it'd be about that.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes. We got 14 minutes of drums and getting hyped.
It's
6 minutes operation. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what are these charges on my bill? Oh, we have to open a new whip every time that we put a Band-Aid on somebody.
And we also had to buy 2 more timpanis because it was a especially delicate procedure, and we needed more drumming power from the nurses. Yeah.
And you see, this fee here is we have to steal the spirit stones from villages every time we do an operation.
And Medicare doesn't cover Shankara stones. Sorry about that. Also, they had to be on a special diet where we wheel in a giant snake and cut it open. Man, I just want to watch fucking Temple of Doom, man.
I know. Which I will say is probably the most racially appropriative Indiana Jones movie.
This is a horrifyingly racist film in so many ways, starting from like minute 1.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Absolutely.
Anyway, diving into this movie. We spend some time with him at the construction site and his wife at the zoo, and his wife is super invested in this one ape, Sydney, where they seem to communicate in sign language and a few other things. Now,
I mean, she is a doctor. Like she's researching gorillas, it seems like. Who was that famous gorilla researcher?
Jane Goodall.
Yeah, like Jane Goodall, exactly. But obviously much younger. Although, I mean, Jane Goodall could have got it back in her day.
Sure. I have a scientist friend who, you know how some people have a thing where they're like, this isn't true and no one reads the research and it's just the one thing that bothers them? This is his.
Oh, yeah?
Where he's like, they don't actually learn sign language. They just learn to imitate you to get the things that they want.
Yeah.
So they can't like form complex sentences. They just repeat things to get treats. So like whenever they make it seem like they're actually talking, they're not. It's just repeated behavior. And I'm like, Bobby, this is a dinner party. Like, please
And
stop.
also, what you just described is sign language.
Basically, yeah. I was like,
because that's all I do when I learn sign language. I learned repeated things that I know what they mean. Yeah.
Also, verbal language. I only tell people things to get what I want.
Right. And his argument is that like the gorillas don't learn to form complex conversations.
Oh, of course
They just
not.
learn to repeat the things we say.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever, and they don't have that actual context for it or whatever.
But that's like saying dogs don't learn words because when I say sit, they don't know that means to sit, but they still sit.
Well, they do learn that mean. Okay, so they.
Well, that's what we're saying,
but that's learning what the word means.
I know,
like,
exactly.
If you say
that's
sit
what I'm saying.
and your dog sits, it knows what sit is.
Yes.
Yeah, it has somehow tied those two things together. Now, what the dog couldn't do is tell you to sit in a way that you would understand.
Right. Because dogs are so fucking stupid.
But dogs do communicate. Like when my dog wants to go outside, it'll look at me, bark, like be like,
yes,
and then like look at the door.
Yeah. But here's the thing about dogs, though, is that like they can't picture apples or any sort.
They can't visualize in their mind's eye.
They can't visualize in their mind's eye.
But I'm just saying, if I can have communication with my dog, that is two beings communicating what they want. A gorilla is much smarter than a dog.
Yes.
I would assume it can do much more.
Yes, it can.
It can. There's just a difference between it's more creative thought than repetition, I guess is the difference. So like they can repeat things.
They don't have themselves a lot of creative thought in that sign language capability. Yeah.
I think they've done studies where dogs can learn like the vocabulary of like a 2-year-old. Like they can learn like 150 words.
That's what I've heard too. I bet gorillas can learn way more than that.
Yeah. But they couldn't hold a conversation with you.
Right.
That you did not already teach them.
And also I don't believe those mats that those dogs step on the mats.
I'm so curious about the mats, but I don't think they're real. But like, I want to know. Like, there's a part of me that's like, but what if my cat could learn and could tell me things? But then I think they just memorize the sound that comes from the mat and the reaction that you give it.
Yes.
But that is language.
Right. Well, it is only to a point, because if they don't technically understand and could not therefore like use the context to form different connections, there's a limit to what they are actually learning.
Right.
As opposed to just repeating actions.
But like sociopaths can't feel love, but they will tell you I love you to manipulate you.
Are you suggesting that animals are sociopaths?
Some are. I mean, if statistically, they're probably in all species, then yes.
I think most bugs are.
I don't know that Sydney is one in this movie, but we don't know who caused the accident that killed his wife, so Sydney might have been involved.
Really irresponsible that they let him drive. Sydney, I mean.
Yeah, Sydney was driving the garbage truck or whatever that hit them.
We taught them left hand, right hand turn signal, but it didn't.
Yeah. I just hated that gorilla hit them and then took her heart out.
Anyway, so she has a huge gala. They're trying to raise money to make the gorilla enclosure bigger.
Yeah.
He picks up her dress. This is where we get, like, she gets home from work and this is where we see the dog waits for her.
Yeah.
Like, she clearly just has a way with animals, it seems.
And they just love the shit out of her heart. That's what it is.
Yeah, they can hear it and they're just like, look at that big juicy heart.
Sounds delicious.
I'd like to suck the blood out of it like a straw.
But yeah, we see her, like, the dog waits for her at the front door. She comes in, and David Duchovny had been trying to get the dog to eat this whole time, and
he wouldn't.
Yeah, and the dog wouldn't. Mel is the dog's name. Wouldn't. And then, of course, when David Duchovny's wife is like, go eat, he immediately goes and eats, you know?
Right. So we cut to their gala that night. She gives a speech. It's very moving. The band is going to play for them. They meet Bennigan, the like, I'm an anonymous donor who just tells everybody.
I love Bennigan so much because he talks to, I think, 3 people in this scene directly, but we hear him tell like 9 people about his anonymous donation.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And that was so funny to me. And they're clearly trying to like pass them off onto other people. Like David Duchovny calls over David Alan Grier to be like, please, don't you need to talk to him about this? And eventually, because of that conversation, a picture of Bennington, whatever his name was.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, gets put up in the monkey enclosure.
In the monkey house. Yeah. He's like, have you thought about a mural?
Yes. When he introduces himself later in the movie, he does say, I know many of you have recognized me from the photo
My
in the
picture in the monkey
enclosure."
house.
And I was like,
great.
whoever they hired to play Bennington or whatever is crushing it.
Yeah, he's doing amazing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we cut over to a hospital where Minnie Driver is very, very sick.
Yeah.
And Bonnie Hunt is there with her. And this is where we find out that she needs a heart, basically.
It's such a sad scene because Minnie Driver is like, take care of my grandpa. Like, she is like coming to terms with the fact that she's probably going to die and like asking Bonnie, which is not her name in the movie, but Bonnie Hunt, or she's asking her like, please take care of my grandpa, like all the things that she needs taken care of in her last moments. And Bonnie is like, you're going to live, you'll be fine. You're going to go to Italy and paint the skyline and fall in love with some rich Italian man and live happily ever after. And Minnie Driver, even though she's about to die, is like, I need a new heart, not a new ass. Or I'm getting a new heart, not a new ass.
Not a new ass. Yeah.
I was like, that's funny. I like that joke.
It's pretty fun.
I just like the presence of mind in your final moments because that like those could have been her last words.
Yeah,
like,
it could have been.
How wild would that have been? What was the last thing Minnie Driver said to you before she died? I don't think we should get into
You
it.
don't want to know.
It's not really important.
She screamed Kali Ma and then caught on fire.
I know what mine will be. I'll be like, tell Todd I hate him.
Oh.
You son of a bitch. I thought for 1 second it was going to be love, and I was very excited. And then, nope.
You're not going to take the second to just like, as you fade away, be like, I can picture heaven in my mind.
Okay, see ya.
Exactly.
Okay, bye.
Those are my favorite. That's my favorite last word.
Ghost is an insane movie, but like the fact that happens in Ghost is so insane as he's walking to heaven.
What sucks is that those will probably be my last words because I would think it's funny and no one will get the joke at the time.
It'll be like the dick pottery. You take it with you.
Oh my God.
Like, oh, I see God. He's talking to me. He says, you're a bitch. I see ya.
I see God. He's played by Samuel L. Jackson.
I knew
This
it.
is the Avengers Initiative.
They need me for a special mission.
I'm being called up to the God Leagues.
Kids, he doesn't even.
So many eyes.
Kids, his mind is gone. He can't even talk straight.
And Mikey's like, this is gold. Why aren't you guys laughing? My podcast would have got it.
Back to the gala. He gets the band to play their song. They dance. And then literally, like, as the song is going, we cut to the hospital where they've been in a car accident.
The song continues over this.
Yeah, the song continues over it.
It's so sad because the song is Returned to Me.
Yes.
Oh,
And
so
she
sad.
basically dies on the gurney.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to wheel her into neurosurgery and they're losing her immediately. So we cut to the restaurant where we meet her dad, or grandfather, I should say, who inexplicably has the Irish accent of a leprechaun.
Like Warwick Davis and the Leprechaun.
Yes. And then all of her dad's or grandfather's Italian friends, who he refers to as Italians, which is wild because they all own a business together.
Right.
And also, Minnie Driver looks very Italian, even though she's supposedly related to the leprechaun man.
Right.
Anyway, this is where we meet our cast of characters who run this restaurant, essentially. And they're all asking about Gracie, Minnie Driver. And everyone there is just like, well, maybe she'll get a heart. And a phone rings. And above it, there's like a little foil heart that says Gracie. So clearly, like, that's the number. Like, that's the phone that gets called if it happens. And he rushes over to answer the phone. And he starts talking before he picks the receiver up.
Yes.
Which is madness.
Paige, I could not believe it. I rewound it. I was like, there's no way that they didn't see that in the moment. It is so egregious. He's not even holding the phone yet. He starts his line before he's touching the phone.
Yeah, I was like, what?
At first, you're like, he's just so excited and is so expecting this call and knows what it means.
That's what I thought.
That, like, he was starting it before and he was going to re-say the line, but he doesn't re-say the line. He then responds to the person on the phone like they heard him when it wasn't answered yet.
Yes.
It's an insane thing that they just left in this movie.
They just left it in. And at this point, they have not quite, they have not given us enough explanation about what this place is.
Right.
So in my notes, I'm just like, is it an Irish pub? Is it an Italian restaurant? is he just the most Irish Italian man? Because he both looks Italian and seems to be hanging out with all these Italians. And like, so Angelo, clearly Italian.
Yes.
Grandfather, clearly Irish.
Yes.
The other two, total toss up. Nobody knows. It's depending on the scene, they are either Italian or Irish.
Yeah.
Depending on what they need them to be in the scene.
I like that.
I liked all the old dudes too. I thought they were great.
I like them later in the movie. The first scene with them, I think, is too long.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones I would trim,
I
but
could
the
see that.
later ones I would leave.
Once David Duchovny joins their group,
Yes.
that's when I loved them from then on out.
Yes. So they all are going to rush to the hospital because she's going to get that heart. Meanwhile, David Duchovny comes home and David Alan Grier brings him home. And this is where he's like, I just want to be alone. Please just leave. And David Alan Grier's like, I'm going to stay nearby, basically. And I'm bringing your parents over in the morning and picking them up from the airport or whatever.
It's like he is such a good friend. Like that is so kind because he is going through it, man. I was just bawling this whole scene. Like,
well, because this is where he like collapses against the door with the dog.
Yeah, and that is, that's the most I cried in this movie. But I cried almost 90% of this movie. When he walks in and sees the note she had pinned about picking up her dress or whatever, I was like lost it from then on out in this scene. It was over for me. Because
so
when
sad.
he is on the ground like crying and like holding his dog's face and like she's not coming back, man, I lost it. I literally told Natalie, I was like, I'm afraid I might cry when talking about this scene on the podcast.
You're talking about it now and I'm starting to cry again now.
It was
so
sad.
fucking sad, man. Oh
so
God.
sad.
I hate having empathy. I know. And then Paige, we see, if we weren't crying enough, we see more scenes of David Duchovny and his wife like in love, like him remembering them. So we're seeing like these really happy glimpses from their marriage, and then it cuts to him crying against the door, like leaning against the door with his dog laying on his like lap, like just weeping.
I know. It's like relentless. And what you really need is, because they bring the like cooler with the heart in, and because you're also seeing the hospital where like her family's like in the chapel and whatever.
Yeah.
What I really needed just to break the tension for a second was for somebody to open that cooler and just fumble the heart onto the floor. Like something just like, oh, good. All right. It feels good to not cry.
And in those like montagey scenes during all of this, like we do see her granddad go to the chapel and like pray or ask St. Michael for help or whatever. It's like really sweet, man. It's so sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it is aggressively Irish.
Yeah.
You still don't really know what's going on with the restaurant.
No, you don't really know. I mean, I do think we sort of learned that the granddad and the Irish co-owner of the bar, like the older main character, like they're in-laws, right? I got the impression that Minnie Driver's parents were each one of their children.
Okay, that could make sense.
And that's how they're related. And so like the super Irish guy is the Irish family, right? And the super Italian guy is the Italian family, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's all speculation. I thought they set that up, but they may not have, but that's definitely what I thought.
They set up that like her mom died when she was young of heart disease and her dad took off.
Yeah.
But we don't know how grandpa relates, if he was dad's dad or mom's dad.
Yeah.
And we don't really know how everyone else is related. As far as we know, somehow she is related to Bonnie Hunt.
Yes.
That those are her nieces and nephews. So somehow that's related. But maybe sibling, maybe not, maybe cousin.
Yeah.
And then for the other older Italian guys in the restaurant, it seems like they might just be her grandfather's friends, but they've kind of like, it takes a village raised her.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe I got. Like all of those people, obviously her granddad, but every one of those dudes at that table was uncle whatever, even though they weren't like physically related, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's super just heart-wrenching.
It is.
But she gets up, she gets the heart. She gets to come home. Everyone's excited. We cut to her painting in a courtyard. And we don't know that it's a time jump, but we will find out that it's at least a year later.
Yeah, I got the vibe that it was a year later.
It takes a lot to recover from an organ transplant.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we find out from her doctor a little bit later that it's a year. But that's like, nobody is like established it yet.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But we see her painting in the courtyard and we cut into all the old men yelling about Bing Crosby hitting his kids. And I was like, finally, the truth getting out. And They're like, Frank Sinatra, actually a good guy. He had other people hit people. I was like, Frank Sinatra was literally in the mob. Like legit a mobster.
But I mean, he didn't do any of his own dirty work, apparently. That's at least what they're saying. I honestly don't know very much about Frank Sinatra, but
he was arrested. His mugshot's fucking cool.
It is cool. I have seen that, obviously, because it's on like shirts and stuff now. And I do love like crooners of that generation. Like I love their voices. I think it's cool. I love that style. But like I just don't really care that much about their lives, but probably because they were all bad dudes, more or less.
Anyway, so they're arguing about who's the best singer of that era. And I just, in my notes, I was like, these are all my great uncles. This is exactly what this was like. She takes her bike to the doctor's office. And again in my notes, because they haven't quite established the restaurant yet, I just have, wait, it's an Irish pub that serves Italian food? Wait, it's an Italian restaurant with an Irish pub in it? Like, I just couldn't figure it out.
I do think you just described their restaurant, though. Like, it is an Irish pub with Italian food. Yes.
Or an Italian restaurant with a pub in it. Yeah.
It really goes into it later when this restaurant is featured on Kitchen Nightmares.
They're like, there's cabbage everywhere.
The theme is terrible in this place. They didn't get on theme.
Your menu is 14 pages long. You have both seafood and corned beef and hash. Like, what are we doing here?
This is wilder than the Cheesecake Factory, guys. Lock it up.
Oh, man. Well, and what we do find out later is that Angelo is just like some sort of pasta wizard. And that's what I was here for. I was like, if you got like an old Italian man in the kitchen shouting at people and smoking over the food, that food's going to be amazing. So you just have to like take what they hand you.
The guitarist in the band that I was in, D, his father was a very Italian man, and he would come and like hang out with us on the road all the time, and he would cook for us. And it literally to this day is the best Italian food I've ever had. And it was just my buddy's dad.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a shirt that said, I support single moms. And it was a woman on a pole. Like, that is the vibe of this guy who cooks me the best Italian food I've ever eaten. And I said, can I have some manicotti? And I got literally smacked. And he said, not hard, but like, poof, and he goes, manicotti.
My God.
And I was like, okay, I apologize, Vincent. Anyway.
Vincent. My grandmother was an amazing cook, but also if you got in her way in the kitchen, she would hit you with a wooden stick.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which I, in my experience and the other Italian Irishes that I have known, common experience. Where they're like, yeah, they like hit you if you get in the way, right? And you're like, yeah, of course. And then he manja, slap, slap. Yeah. Great food. I wanted to eat at this restaurant, even though I was confused by this restaurant. Jake and I, we went through a phase during pandemic where we were making these big lasagnas from scratch.
Oh, you were entering your carb era. Yes.
Yeah, we were carbing up for the rest of the pandemic.
I like that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, honestly.
And we would make it like from scrizzity scratch. Like nice. I would make the cheese. We would make the noodles from scratch, and then we would do like thin slices of Italian sausage in it, like do the sauce all day. Like it would take us a full day and some change to do it.
Yeah.
But then it was the best lasagna we'd ever had, and we'd eat it for days. And we haven't done it in a while. We were waiting for the new kitchen. So once we get everything set up in the new kitchen, we'll do lasagna again. It's so good. And like, here's the thing. If you find a good Italian restaurant, usually owned by like a family or somebody that's like, we stole grandma's recipes, it can be that good. It's just, you know, you got to put up with people yelling at you and hitting you with spoons.
Or just correcting how you say manicotti.
Manicotti, mozzarella.
But like, this is coming from someone who did not have an Italian accent, Paige. Like,
no, of course not. No. These are the people that roll up to Olive Garden and they're like, oh, the pasta fagioli. And you're just like, yeah, all right.
All right, we get it, Vince. Like, we get it, all right?
Yeah. Anyway, so she goes to the doctor and the doctor's like, how you doing? Because like all your scans look great. And she's like, oh, I'm good. But like, I feel bad when I have bad days because like someone else died to give me this heart. So I should just be happy all the time, which is like, we should talk to somebody about that. Hey, you know what? Like, emotions are valid.
Yeah.
I agree. Definitely she needs to talk to someone about this. I'd argue that she is right now, but maybe someone who was a trained therapist. But like,
right, and someone who's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I completely get why she would feel that way.
Yes.
And I am sorry that she is feeling that way. But I get it, you know? Yeah. And it terrifies me that I just heard Mikey, who is a therapist, say that I mean, maybe they're just pretending to listen.
Not all therapists are good. I've heard some horror stories out there about some therapists.
I did talk to a lady whose therapist fell asleep on their Zoom session during pandemic.
That has happened a number of times. And I feel bad because like for the person in therapy, that's so demoralizing. But then also for the therapist, I'm like, this therapist had 10 sessions that day.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to get by and survive.
Yeah.
Like I see both sides of it. I feel so bad.
It's draining too.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Having everyone unload their trauma on you. Like,
That's
I'm
why
sure
I like
it
doing
is.
stuff in crisis because it's like lights of sirens blazing. There's adrenaline running. You're not sitting on a comfy couch with a sound machine with like a glass of water or like a warm blanket.
That's going to put you to sleep anyway? Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, should it be that comfortable to have therapy? Maybe we should make it a little less comfortable so people are all paying attention.
That's why Mikey and I are starting our new business, Extreme Therapy, where we chase
scared
you
of
around.
spiders? Bring down the spiders.
Exactly.
You got to tell us your feelings on the rock wall. Yeah.
It's feelings factor.
Because I'm mentally deranged, I picture everything as like sketches, and I am picturing like our venue with like wacky inflatable arms out front, and it's like Extreme Therapy, and it's got a rock wall, and it's got like a Shark Tank.
like a half pipe.
So what you're describing is just the same to me as holistic therapy.
Well, here's what I think, because I do think you were onto something with therapy factor, where it's like you could either eat this centipede or tell us how you really feel
About your mother.
Yeah, tell us about your divorce or eat this centipede. Yeah.
Yes, I love this. Still hosted by Joe Rogan for no reason.
Honestly, that's something I would watch. I would watch that.
Honestly would as well. Yeah.
I'd be like, this is the perfect job for you, man.
Michael, what are you up to lately? Oh, I created an extreme therapy center. Like revolutionary treatments? No. It's just the same as some of this, your body keeps the score. So like we're like amping it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But can your body earn the high score is the question at Extreme Therapy.
We've got guest lecturer Tony Hawk.
Bam Majera.
Oh,
Doing therapy with guys is easier when you're doing an activity. Like when I used to do like
absolutely.
like
It
adolescence,
definitely
is like we would
is.
go for walks or shoot basketball and stuff.
Like, this is a bit we're doing, but I do think a version of this would be successful, especially with the male population.
Oh, I'd be like, should we do this session in the bounce house today?
yeah, absolutely. But if we are inviting Bam, can we just agree that it is just all a trick to get Bam to go to therapy?
Oh, I definitely, that's why I said his name.
Yeah. You're a guest lecturer. Trick. We all have letters to read to you, Bam. Steve-O, would you like to start? Yes.
After I got sober, Bam, and you did not, you hurt me in these following ways. Sorry, that's what Steve-O would say.
Honestly, that's what happened on Instagram, and it's so sad because like Steve-O clearly wants the best for him so much, but like people have to choose it for themselves.
Yep.
Also, Steve-O's super fucking nice. I've met Steve-O a handful of times.
I've never met him, but at least sober Steve-O seems
yes,
so
I
nice.
only met sober Steve-O. I only met sober Steve-O. I did not meet Steve-O while he was drinking. But sober Steve-O has been incredibly kind every time I've met him. This is a good idea. So this is our plan for after the podcast go bust, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I may cut it out of the episode because I'm going to patent this.
To me, it's the same thing as some of these treatments going around right now that don't have a lot of like
science behind them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, now you know why they get around though, because someone's making money off of it.
Right?
100%.
So why isn't that us?
They're like, you just take the toast and you shake it by your head and we'll reprocess the trauma. That technically could. EMDR is good, but I mean, like
I was like, that sounds a lot like EMDR, and it's actually sort of helping me.
EMDR has toast? Sorry, I just got excited for
I
toast.
accidentally improved EMDR all of a sudden with my invention.
Because you catered. You gave it food. Yes.
You just focus on the cinnamon rolls when they pop up by your eyes. And your eyes follow the cinnamon rolls.
Interesting. I'm thinking we got to reinvest the money that we get from the half pipe and the rock wall into one of those bungee rides that like slingshots you back where people like pass out, so that you're like, all right, you're going to tell us your feeling that you've kept inside that you didn't feel like you could tell anyone. and then we're going to launch it.
And then we're going to catapult you to freedom.
To freedom. It's like, sometimes I worry that I'm not worthy of love.
We have rides based on common emotional states. I like this.
Yeah. It's an amusement park that is therapy based.
Oh, you feel like drowning? Today we'll be scuba diving in the pool of despair.
Oh, no.
You gave it a name. Like, I can see what the pool of despair is in my mind. Like, that is amazing.
Of despair. The pit of despair.
Yeah.
But inside it's just like cool tropical fish.
It just looks like the fucktisimal font from Pray for the Devil. What are we fucking talking about? Oh my God.
It got away from us, but I do think this is a good idea.
I do think it's a good idea. We got to get back into the episode.
All right. So we cut to construction at the zoo, and David Duchovny is like pissed off because things aren't happening fast enough.
Well, yeah, but he feels obligated to build this thing for his wife because he did make a promise to his wife that if they went to Italy, which is apparently someplace they wanted to go for a while, that he would go ahead and build the enclosure for Sydney no matter how much they raised that night, right?
Right.
So like he feels like he has to do this for her, and I think it's super sweet that he does, but he also just lost his wife. So he's like in a bad headspace about it.
Do you guys think it's kind of like nepotism though?
Nepotism? Like he got the contract because he was her husband?
I mean, he was fucking the person in charge of the program. So yeah.
So I mean, like,
I got the vibe that he actually was like independently wealthy because of his building group or whatever.
I got the impression they were sponsored by Gorilla Glue. Sorry, that's a construction joke.
That whole enclosure, not one nail. It's all
not one
glue.
nail. You could hang it upside down.
And that's why they call it Gorilla Glue, because it's strong enough for a gorilla enclosure.
But engineered for a woman.
It's pH balanced for a gorilla, but soft enough for a woman.
Yeah. Very fun. Anyway, so she shows up to the zoo with her nieces, and she actually passes him walking in. And they have just like a minute, like her heartbeat, but that's about it.
I do love that they don't touch, but they do sort of like have a moment. And like one of Jim Belushi's kids.
But they all look like they have different parents. Well, not a single one of them looks related to the other ones.
I know, it's great.
Yeah.
One of them goes, "Are you okay, Aunt whatever?" And she goes, Yeah, whatever it wasn't bad." And I was like, I mean, I knew that. It was just felt like the director thought we needed to know that it wasn't a bad experience that they just had.
Yeah.
And it was very funny to me that they included that.
They're like, "Bump, are you okay?" "I'm not dying. It was okay. It felt good."
Yeah, that we might be worried that she was having an issue with her heart again. So the director was like, we got to have him ask the question.
Well, I feel like earlier in this movie, there's a lot more magical realism around the heart. Like in this season, because she goes up to the gorilla enclosure, and we established earlier that the gorilla only puts its hands up or whatever for Elizabeth, his wife.
His wife, yeah.
And the gorilla does it again in this scene. And I think this and then her connection with the dog later, it's the little bit of magical realism in this movie where it's like, the animals can tell the heartbeat. And I'm like, I don't think they can. Like, I know bears can... Bears? I know... Dog beers. I know bears can smell periods, but like this seems excessive.
Man, people are mad at the beers this week.
Or did they go all IPA on it? Like what happened? I don't know how to speak football. I'm so sorry.
Bud Light, Coors Light, like a lot of the
that's
light
right.
beers,
They
have their inclusive cans or whatever, and Kid Rock shot a machine gun at them. And
fucking Kid Rock.
Kid Rock lives 12 minutes north of me. We're in the same police precinct.
That's how rich Mikey is. He lives in the same police precinct as Kid Rock does. Which that joke is so funny if you know what Mikey's house looks like and where it is. Like, but so sorry, Mikey. That joke was 100% just for you.
Every week, the world surprises me about how much emotional energy people put into stupid shit that, like, if you don't like it, just don't care about it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's not actively hurting other people.
Right. I'm like, if someone's not hurting themselves or others, then there's like really like not much for me to like dig into there, you know?
Like if the government is trying to murder or restrict the health of trans teens, then I gotta care. Like I gotta care about that one. But if a brand is like, well, we decided to give the green M&M normal shoes. I'm like, I can't care about this.
We want to give the green M&M less fuckable shoes.
And I was like, okay, so those are uglier shoes for the M&M, but like that's as far as it goes. Maybe I tweet about, I think these shoes are a little uglier, but like the hate campaigns are just...
It's wild.
I mean, we could get into why they do that if this was a different podcast.
Well, like, all people do it about weird stuff.
Yes.
Like, you know, someone on this podcast, I'm not going to name names, really gets fed into...
It's fucking me, dude. I get locked in. It sucks. Mikey will even message me and be like, you need to get off Twitter today. And I'll be like, that's good feedback. I do need to get off Twitter today.
For your brain.
And it's not like I know what you're trying
That's
to...
good feedback, yeah.
I'm like, you're just yelling in an empty cave. Like, you need to take a
Mikey,
walk.
I was so fucking mad when they expelled the...
Oh, you should be. It's infuriating, and it should be illegal. It is fascism. It is racism.
I have never been blind with rage before in my life. I, for the first time in my life, was so mad, I like blacked out a little bit. I've never been that level of mad before.
After the shooting, I was like in my own kind of space. Where I was like, you know, helping people and like still trying to do my thing. And then like,
because you're in crisis mode. Like from the moment it happened, you were there. Like
I'm not paying attention to the politics side of it or whatever. And then like I like, took a day, like Friday or something, to like catch up and like read all this stuff. And I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Well, why did they change her shoes?
For the M&M, like she looked so fuckable.
For those of you who
before.
don't know, that is not why 7,000 students walked out of class into Capitol Hill in Nashville a few days ago and had a peaceful protest where 3 of our lawmakers also attended, and 2 of those 3 have now been expelled from the body for attending that peaceful protest.
Well, yeah.
But people who attended the January 6th insurrection still there.
Still sit on the
Yeah.
We can't talk. We can't. This is gonna be.
We can't get into it. We can't get
into the naked picture somebody made of the green M&M to try and figure out what her anatomy would be.
I can't judge. I Googled the exact same thing for Mignon's a couple of weeks ago.
Oh no, my husband has sent me an attachment.
Well, the only thing my ex sent me was an attachment disorder. Therapy jokes. They're here.
Anyway, so the gorilla connects with her.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were talking about. The gorilla hand scene where Minnie Driver puts her hands up, and the gorilla does as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where Minnie Driver stands outside the gorilla enclosure with a boombox that's like, in your hands,
your gorilla hands. Yeah.
Gorilla hands, your monkey hands, your monkey face. Your power glove that helps us find the diamonds. No, wait, that's Congo.
Well, I think the power gloves would help you find the seeing stones or whatever so that they could perform transplants.
The Shankara stones.
That's the callback we should have made.
Anyway, so we cut to David Duchovny comes home and his dog walker is on his way out of the house. Now, this dog walker only has 2 scenes in the movie and they're both completely unhinged and I love them both.
I love this first one because he's like crawling down the steps wearing
he can't rollerblade.
But he had to get there some way. And I'm assuming
he had to somehow get inside with the dog. Yeah.
Because in my mind, when I see this child, I mean, he's probably like 15, maybe, like old enough to like watch your dog while you're away, you know, for a little bit of money, right? You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like, I was like, wait, did David Duchovny and his wife have a child? Why is this child like...
Who is this child?
Because he has to have gotten there on those rollerblades and now can't rollerblade. It just seemed weird to me.
It's very strange.
But very funny.
It's an interesting choice.
And the next time we see him, he's in the exact same outfit, even though it is days, maybe even months later.
He's a poor little orphan boy.
Yeah, well, and David Duchovny's like, how do I look? And he just goes, tall. And he's like, that's it. And he's like, real tall.
But that's not the worst compliment.
No, it's not. And listen, as someone who, and I realize I probably shouldn't say short king, but I have considered myself a short guy for my entire life. Like, I would love to be considered tall.
Anyway, so he doesn't have any messages, but David Allen Greer's like, please come hang out with us tonight. And he's like, no, I'm just gonna, stay at home. And the dog is still waiting by the door. It's like the dog is still waiting for her to come home. And it was just like
so sad. All the scenes where the dog is acting made me cry. Even when the dog is like connecting to Minnie Driver and we see him licking her and all that stuff, I was like, oh, he could smell her heart.
Yes.
Which is insane.
It is crazy. But he does eventually call David Allen Greer back and be like, fine, I'll go out on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go.
I don't know, man. A year after losing like my wife that I was like deeply in love with, like that. I understand why his friends are like, hey man, you got to start getting out there. I understand that. I also understand why he would be like hesitant to do that and be like, I don't know if I want to get into all that. Like, I just really loved how like real this movie felt to me.
Yeah. Well, and the girl he picks is also not great.
Mikey, I've been on that date before.
Oh, yeah. That would damage a friendship for me if somebody... Well, wait 5 seconds.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah.
So we cut to the restaurant and this is where they're singing Italian songs. And this is where we know that Grace is the waiter.
Yes.
Waitress, server there.
Yeah.
And kind of as they're getting set up for the dinner rush in the kitchen, they give her a plane ticket to go to Italy because they want her to go and paint in Italy. And they're like, figure out when you want to go, who you want to go with, how you want to do it. But here's the tickets.
Yeah.
So they have also tried to set her up with someone who has hair plugs. And the way they try to set her up with people, they're like, she's had some work done. And I'm like, that's not what it is.
It is kind of bizarre how they treat an organ transplant.
Well, yeah, because they're saying, I told him that you had your chest worked on. And like, that's not what that guy is going to think.
That's not it.
When you tell him that. You have to say heart transplant.
So funny though.
Yes.
Because if they hear she's had her chest worked on, that's not where he's expecting to see the scar.
Yeah, like the idea that she's like, people are going to think I've had breast implants. I'm like, that's not what those scars look like. Like, that's not.
Yeah,
no.
They don't just go through the center like that.
No. Although there are different entry methods that you should talk about with your surgeon, like, and what works best for you. I don't honestly know terribly a lot about it, but
well, it depends on what you're getting done. A really common one is to go around the nipple so
I've heard that
like the nipple hides the scar.
Yeah.
They're getting real good at it these days.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Talk to a plastic surgeon. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh. It's your life.
Yeah, do whatever you want to
do.
Like for me, it's not even a matter of like what my preference. I don't have a preference. Like I just like boobs. Like I'm just happy to be here. So like if you get them, make sure you're getting them for you
and that you like them.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they have to be on your body.
And if you're with a guy who that's really important to them, you might want to like
not be with that guy, right?
Yeah, probably, or at least take some stock there.
Yeah. Get started on your resolutions with Factor, so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the groceries, prep work, and the cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more. Plus, over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have tons of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Factor now offers like a load of snacks. In fact, we just got some of these like smoothies that were really great. They have a banana chocolate smoothie that like I drank way too much of. It was so good. And even better than that, when things get hectic, Factor's like flexible. So you can change up your order every week with plans from like 4 to like 18 meals per week. So you can like have a bunch of meals or just a few meals depending upon like how many times you need meals that week, right? So it's great. So head to factormeals.com/romancingthepod50 and use code romancingthepod50 to get 50% off. That's code romancingthepod50 at factormeals.com/romancingthepod50 to get 50% off.
Anyway, so we cut to her meeting Hair Plugs guy, and he's like, no, tug on it. It's great. And like browbeats her into doing it. And she does it. And of course, it hurts because like...
Because pulling hair hurts.
It hurts, yeah.
It's so funny, though, because he's like, well, I think it might be later, but he tries to get someone else to pull his hair. And
he tries to get the bartender to do it.
Yeah.
And the bartender just says, I don't touch men.
And he goes, well, it's female hair, so it's fine.
So it's fine.
And I was like,
yeah.
Which I thought was funny. Yeah.
What is on this dude's head? Like, were they literally just like punched in horse tails? Because that's what they looked like.
That's what it used to be.
Wait, really?
Not horse hair, but human hair.
I didn't mean like actual horse hair, but yeah. Okay. I meant like they look like horse tails because you know, like they're like really clumped together and then they sort of spread out, you know?
Yeah.
Like it looks like doll hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they even still do it the same way, although they've gotten really good at this too, of like hairline reconstruction is what they call it, where they harvest from certain parts of your head and then implant in other parts of your head so that you have like a new follicle and stuff to grow.
Yeah, but those grow on their own, right? But they are like just moving follicles around. It's not like, and I thought that that's what this was, but then when they show it close up,
it's real messed up.
It is like they punched doll hair into this man's scalp.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's a practical effect, and it looks great for what they're trying to get across.
Yes.
Like, no notes on this practical effect. I loved it.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, oh no, it's on an actor that is very bald, because I've seen him in a million other things.
So have I.
And also, hey, bald is beautiful.
Oh,
like,
I'm sure in this actor's like real life, he probably is just bald. He's clearly playing an insane character in this 1 second scene. Yeah.
I feel like bald is what you make it. Like, and if you choose to just fucking rock it, no one will question.
It's a confidence thing. Really, it is. Like,
yes.
Just like Pearl rocking the top hat in Pearl in that red dress.
I still respect the hell out of that top hat rock.
Yeah, man. I never thought I'd say this sentence, but that girl got good top hat game.
Good top hat game. Anyway, so we cut back to their date, and David Duchovny arrives, and we meet Marcia, who they've set her up with. And she is, at first, she just seems annoying, which I'm like, whatever. She's just trying to be nice. But then the way that she speaks to Minnie Driver, so Minnie Driver comes up to like take their order, and she is a nightmare.
She is so mean, like immediately mean. I hate it. And honestly, like when I was dating, like if I went on a first date with somebody and they were great to me but treated the waitstaff like shit, I'm never talking to that person again.
Never.
Because that is like a big indicator for me of like someone who is
instant deal breaker.
Yes. Maybe it's just because I was a server for sometime during college that like that really like is something I looked for.
No, I mean I never was a server, but I'm always nice to waiters because like, people are just trying to live their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've gotten mad at some servers, but not a few.
In my lifetime, maybe 2. And even then I was just like, fine, but I'm begrudgingly leaving this 20%.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does this on purpose because so many people would consider that to be a huge red flag.
Yeah.
That they're just like, we're going to take her out of the running immediately. With her like, it can't be Swiss water because I got poisoned by Swiss water.
Of course she did. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But that's her whole thing is like she demands bottled water with a straw, can't be Swiss, whole thing. And then, of course, Minnie Driver does what every good server would do, which, by the way, if you are this much of a dick to a server, expect them to do what Minnie Driver does in this moment, which is get a bottle of water and then fill it with tap water just to see if you'll notice the difference.
I love this so much because at first I thought because she asked for Aquafina by name, and I was like, oh, is the joke that Aquafina is Swiss and I don't know that? Like, or whatever. No. And then the joke is that she is going to pour it out and then give her tap water.
Yep.
And I love that we have David Duchovny, who is answering a phone call, see her do that. And they have a moment of like, yeah, this is happening. And David Duchovny is clearly on board. Yeah, it is very like, fuck that lady energy, which I love because this felt like a real meet cute that could happen in the world.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so grounded in reality for such a bonkers premise, and I love it.
Yeah, it's the same eye contact I made with a hairdresser at a wedding one time where a drunk bridesmaid was giving her shit, and so she just cut out a chunk of her hair.
Oh, wow.
And she like looked at me and I just nodded, and then she did it, and I was like, she had that coming. She'll discover it tomorrow. It'll be fine. But yeah, it's just that like we both recognize that this person is out of line and we're going to take corrective action now.
Yes. Yeah, it's great.
Anyway, he on the phone basically is like, call me in another like 10 minutes to get me out of this date, basically.
Yeah.
So he goes and sits back down, and Marcia tries to like take off her jacket. So she's like all, tight shirt, booby everywhere, and just kind of like pressing against it. Like she is laying it on thick. Yeah. And then Minnie Driver brings the water to the table, and he's like, oh, I bet that tastes refreshing. Like he just
so funny. And he like is staring at her like his quote unquote blind date or whatever, like waiting for her to drink and like see her reaction. And of course she reacts like, oh, it's so much better than tap water. And he goes, I mean, he doesn't say this, but in his eyes, he's like, I bet it does, you bitch. Like, he's just so upset about it.
She doubles down because like, because she, Minnie Driver's telling her the specials, and she's like, oh, is everything here just boiled in oil? Like, this is disgusting. Which, like, then don't eat here.
Yeah, fuck you. Go to Portillo's. You don't have to eat here.
What? You don't have to eat here.
Go get a hot dog.
It's called olive oil, and I put all of my food in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, but no, she responds with like, oh no, it's all boiled in Swiss water. Basically being like, you're being ridiculous.
Yes.
Which, this sounds terrible, but if everyone else at the table except for David Duchovny takes her side, where she's like, that was uncalled for. Let's get that mouthy bitch fired. If I was at her table, I'd be laughing at her. I'd be like, that's what you get. That is what you get for treating her like shit. That's what you sound like. Like, you brought this on yourself, honestly. And so she kind of ducks away. And I would assume Sophie or somebody else handles their table for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
But she catches David Duchovny as he's leaving because he's like, oh, I gotta go to work. Bye.
Well, and he makes an excuse almost immediately to leave. Like, he's at this date, maybe a total of 10 minutes, and 4 of those were him like flirting with Minnie Driver and overseeing her do the tap water thing.
Right. Well, and she hands him somebody else's takeout.
Yeah.
To just like, I know you didn't get to eat dinner. So like, you know, ravioli with a side of cabbage, which is a very weird combo.
I'd eat it.
But the ravioli sounded delicious. Yeah. Anyway, she sends him off and does ask like, will your friends be staying? He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Basically, like, I think so. You better stock up on non-Swiss water. So as he waits outside with his takeout for his car from the valet, he watches her sing through the window, and David Alan Grier comes out and is like, you're leaving? Like, what's going on? And he's just like, I gotta go to work. I gotta go. Yeah. Sorry. He leaves, and he does drive to the job site where he like parks and just sits in the bed of his truck eating the Italian food, and then he opens a letter from the organ donor organ donor liaison, which is where she sent her letter to. So she sent a letter. It is now being delivered to him anonymously, and it's basically like, I have your wife's heart, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sad, but also that ravioli.
It cut away too soon. I only read the first paragraph of the letter. And then I was like, did I miss the second paragraph? Was that more important?
I paused it. You don't need to know anything in that letter for the movie. It's not important. It's basically just like, hey, thank you. Yeah. I treasure life. It doesn't give any personal details or anything.
She has to send it through the Organ Donor Association because she doesn't know whose heart she got, right?
Yeah, she doesn't know.
So I sort of got the vibe that they like go through it to make sure it doesn't give any like identifying information before they'll send it.
So I think it depends on how your donor...
Yeah, I think some people are able to like thank the families or the families want to thank them.
We have a family friend who's had a lung transplant, and because she had cystic fibrosis. And so she has been in contact with the family of the woman whose lungs she has. And they like celebrate together as like a family, which is kind of a really unique, interesting experience. But
I mean, that's cool though. Like when my brother died, my parents did not opt to do that. I'm pretty sure it was my dad that didn't want to do that because Mormons have this weird belief about preserving the body for resurrection. That's a whole weird thing. But like, that's fine. I get it. It was their choice, not mine. But I would have liked for that to have happened and then to have known the lives that impacted in a positive way. It's why I'm an organ donor. So like,
same.
I'm an organ donor too. I donate that organ one woman at a time.
No.
And then I leave an anonymous letter.
It's not just because her rejection rate's 100%.
I was like, it's not you, it's me. The organ has rejected. It just didn't take.
The organ has rejected the host.
Yeah, but thanks for the cheese.
What? Where did the cheese come from?
Girls usually have like nice cheese in the fridge. You got, especially as we get older. It's like I just go raid the fridge.
And you won't even make us a fucking quesadilla.
But you'll steal her Tillamook?
Trash. Stay away from my brie.
Both her friend brie and her cheese brie. Okay.
By the way, the attachment that Jake sent me earlier when I got a text was just the Barbie meme, but with a wheel of brie, and it said brie instead of Barbie.
Honestly, I'd watch that movie.
Now I'm kind of craving Brie.
What's Brie Larson up to? Is she single? Mikey, let's get Brie Larson for you.
I feel like
feel like she's busy.
I'll reach out to her publicist and see if she's on the market for a love companion.
Is that how famous people date other famous people? Are they?
I mean, there are definitely relationships that are put together that way. I would assume that majority of them are not. They just are running in similar circles because they're famous, you know, and so they meet people and just like how you meet people in life organically. Yeah.
I would say C-list and below might meet on Raya. But if you are like up, like A, B, and even some C-list, you're probably meeting at events.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my Raya application.
I literally, when she said Raya, I remembered our conversation about how we were going to try and get famous enough to get Mikey on Raya, and I badly need that to happen.
Unfortunately, on the Z list, you're not allowed on Raya.
No, Raya is like top tier reality show people. Like that's who's on Raya.
We got to get you on that, Mikey. Just think about like all the dudes you've seen on like Love is Blind or Too Hot to Handle, and then like Mikey being on there.
It's like that and then comedians.
I'm just going to come in one day and be like, look, I get it now. I'm in love with Francesca.
Oh, no.
I just checked it. One of my other friends is on there now. And so I asked them to add me as their referral.
Wait, really? You have a friend on Raya?
I have 2 friends.
Are either of them on Raya, Mikey?
Both. I have 2 friends on Raya. They're both.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
What happened, Mikey? What happened?
It's one of the reporter's numbers that I...
Oh, no. Did you already ask them?
Wait.
No.
So
Mikey,
you didn't know who it
Mikey,
was, but you had her in your phone because she's reached out to you for work stuff?
No, Mikey. No.
So wait. Have you dated her already?
No, it's a guy. It's a guy.
Okay.
But he's going to get this notification like, what is this idiot wanting me to refer?
You may want to text this person you barely know.
I'm just going to leave it. I feel like you should just leave it.
All right.
I don't think you'll enjoy the people on Raya. I think you will go on a couple dates and be like, this is a nightmare.
Yes, that's what I...
Paige, you're explaining what we want from this interaction. Like, I want him on Raya for the podcast.
Well, then I hope that reporter comes through.
I just want to sit down and be like, yeah, I went on this date with this D-list reality star, and then like who we're talking about from like Perfect Match. I'm like, and I see why I didn't like them at the show.
Yeah, you were awful, and I did watch you feed wine to your dog. Anyways, they're closing up the restaurant, and someone left a phone on the bar, and it is David Duchovny's phone. So we cut to the next day on the job site. He's actually super happy because I think he's like into Mini Driver and he's going to go back and get his phone. And he's, you know, like he is finally excited about somebody for the first time since his wife.
I mean, we do see him bail on David Allen Greer and then like go home and get like dressed to go back. Right. Like,
yeah. And we cut to Bonnie Hunt and Jim Belushi's house where Jim Belushi is like, I invited Rudy over to meet Grace. And she's like, Father Rudy?
And he's like, he's no longer a priest. He's an ex-priest. He doesn't do the priesting stuff anymore.
Yeah. But he does arrive in the collar because he's like, I don't feel comfortable without it.
I honestly felt so bad for that guy. Like he has just made this big life change.
Sure.
He's meeting a girl who is way more attractive than him and he knows it. And he just doesn't feel comfortable without his priest collar on.
Oh, that's a hot mess.
There's so many levels to that it makes it so funny to me.
Well, and she feels the need to like cover her chest scar. So she's got like a diaper that she's like wearing as a dickie.
Yeah.
Like an empty one, not like a used one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, David Allen Greer's out with like 3 people and trying to get David Duchovny to go. And he's like, no, I'm not going.
This is when he bails on him so he can go like get dolled up.
So he can go get dressed. Yeah.
To go get his phone. Yeah.
So we cut to later at Bonnie Hunt's house. They're putting the kids to sleep. They're finally letting the priest go. And he like clearly liked her, but she was like, he wouldn't even let me lift plates. Like, I am capable. Like, I know this is weird, but.
So, like, for a Mini Driver, I do like that they point out that she isn't, I mean, she probably is nervous about them seeing the scar just cosmetically, but, like,
right.
I feel like her bigger importance is the way they treat her differently when they realize what she's been through and all that stuff.
Right.
And she just wants to be treated like a normal, desired woman, which I completely get.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense to me.
Absolutely. So we cut to David Duchovny shows up at the restaurant and they're just like, oh, hey, phone guy. Yeah, we'll find the phone. Where's you had to get back to your wife? And he's like, oh, I'm not married. She passed away. And they're like, oh no, his wife died. Come on over, have a pint. We're playing poker. Take my wife, please.
I love that so much. It was so like dumb, but so fun. I loved it.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how Sophie and Wally should maybe be together, and it's their little ecosystem, but they just immediately ingratiate him, and he's winning money. Like, he's beating them in poker.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Minnie Driver upstairs sees that it's windy outside and wants to cover her plants. So she comes downstairs in like a robe and like a hair bonnet and is like, I gotta go do the plants.
It's like she clearly found David Duchovny like attractive and was like into him when he was there before, the night before. And so like, this is like gotta be her worst case scenario of meeting that guy again.
I did like that. She's like, you know, I sorry. I know you saw my hair last night, so you know that I have hair.
Yeah.
Great.
Minnie Driver, I think, is a great actress, but she's so charming and likable in this fucking movie. It's great.
So much. And she's got all her plants. It made me very excited. We're getting my plants. My boysenberry plant is blooming and it's got berries growing on it. I am very excited. Anyway, so they cover all her plants and he sees her paintings and she's like, I just paint places from my dreams. I've never been anywhere. And he just very sweetly is like, would you like to go out with me? And she was like, yes. And he's like, tomorrow? Yes. I'll pick you up here? Yes.
And he's like, you're very accommodating or whatever.
Yeah, you're a very difficult woman.
That's what it was. He makes a joke of it. That's what it is.
He makes a joke about it.
Yeah.
But they come back into the restaurant and all of the old people have like skedaddled, like scram.
I mean, they do like hide back in the kitchen and then Minnie Driver's like, Grandpa? And then you hear Grandpa from the kitchen yell, we're not here or something.
Yeah, we're not here.
So fun.
It is so funny. I loved it.
So he leaves for the night. She goes to Bonnie Hunt's house and is like, I just want to tell you, I met somebody. Okay, I'm going to go back on my bike now.
Yeah. She's just really excited about it. It's really cute.
Yeah.
Because she's been sick, we find out, since she was like 14 or 15. So she's probably never really dated anybody, really, you know? Like,
she would have been a good match for Captain America.
Oh yeah.
Shit. I like that for him. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, are we all excited to watch his new rom-com, Ghosted?
Yes, I am excited about that.
I know it's only on Apple Plus, but we may have to do it.
I have Apple Plus, so that sounds great to me.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
They're all a write-off. It's fine.
Yeah, so why won't you get stars, Todd?
I didn't realize saying that would backfire so immediately spectacularly. So, all right, I may have to get stars. I apologize. I'll fucking watch Party Down with You.
Yes. You were going to love it.
I know I will.
Anyway, he goes to tell the gorilla and feed it French fries. But we cut to their date the next day where Bonnie Hunt's like, don't shave your legs, then you won't let it go too far. And I'm like, no offense. If a dude's into you, shaved legs ain't stopping anybody. Nobody's like, ew, gross.
I have had someone say to me, I didn't shave my legs because I didn't think we'd go this far. And I was like, Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah. No.
Like, how much cheese do you have in the fridge?
Mikey, you are not allowed to touch her cheese storage if you will not make her a quesadilla.
Yo, lady, what that brie do?
I just want you to picture her falling asleep, me calling an Uber, stealing a roll of brie.
Like a wheel of camembert.
What you're describing is the sexiest re-envisioning of how the Grinch stole Christmas, and I'm not here for it. You're a mean one, Mikey Renoff.
I'm going to steal this Parmesan that's 39 and a half years old.
And I just come home and talk to my dog about it.
You ate the whole wheel of cheese, Max? I'm not even mad.
Choosing between them, I'd take the cloth-bound cheddar wheel.
I
We're
hate
so dumb.
you both so much. You realize I can't have like regular conversations with people anymore, right? Like, I just assume I should be able to have this level of conversation with like all of my friends. And I love my friends, but some of them are not here with conversation. And me yes-anding their bits makes them very uncomfortable.
Like, what? No, I was joking. And you're like, I know.
I know you were joking. Janice. This is a classic yes and.
Fit bit.
I hate that I know exactly what you're fucking talking about.
Deep cut drunk uncle sketch.
God damn it. Holy shit.
Back in my day, it was just werewolf, Frankenstein, communist Dracula.
We're never finishing this episode. We live in Remember Me.
It's Return to Me, which, by the way, I very specifically would much rather live in Return to Me than Remember Me, which technically I do live in Remember Me.
Remember Me is now. What are you talking about?
I know.
What she was saying was a very obvious criticism of Return to Me's refusal to acknowledge the events that happened a year after this movie came out.
They're in Chicago.
That is true. They're in Chicago, which is hilarious because when David Duchovny and Minnie Driver start dating and he takes her up to see the skyline, I was like, I don't recognize one building. Mikey was right. I literally looked at Natalie and I was like, does that look like Chicago to you? And she was like, what does Chicago even look like?
Looks like Gotham City over there. He's a builder in Gotham City.
I do love the idea that all rom-coms take place in Gotham. I think that's a fun little tidbit.
Stop it. Stop referencing Drunk Uncle because it's just me and you and the guy who was Drunk Uncle and Seth Meyers who get that
Bobby
joke.
Moynihan.
Bobby Moynihan, that's right.
Anyway, so on their date, she skirts around the telling him about her heart. But he does tell her about his wife, which I think is very sweet.
I really love that. Yeah, like the fact that David Duchovny they're on their like first real date.
Yeah.
And he is like so open about what he is like. I mean, it's been a year, but he's currently going through. And he is like, because I do think if this is like the first woman you've dated post your wife dying tragically, you're going to be going through some grief just because you'll be falling in love with someone again, and that's going to bring up these sad feelings about you and your wife who passed away. Like, so it's good that he tells her that up front. Like, I love that. But she is not so honest with him or forthcoming.
She is not. And that's the one downside. But I also feel like this is also one of those romance movies where neither one of them does anything to hurt the other one.
Exactly.
It is just the circumstances, which I actually do
like those better.
really like. Because, I mean, yes, this movie is fucking bonkers.
It is.
But if this happened to you, I could fully understand them reacting the way that they did.
Yeah.
But there's no like, I'm going to make so-and-so jealous or I am going to hurt somebody by kissing somebody else.
It's not How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or something, right?
Yeah, it's just people trying their best to love someone fully.
Yeah.
And that, for me, just pulls at the heartstrings just so hard.
Absolutely. That's exactly why I love this movie so much.
Yes. So they walk home and her grandpa has set up like a little patio and he goes to kiss her and he goes to like play with the collar of her blouse, I think just to kind of like joking, and it's just too close to the scar. She freaks out and hits him and is just like, I'm so sorry.
She actually slaps him. Like you see her hit his face. So he actually got slapped in the scene. And man, it's so funny because she immediately like backtracks and was like, tries to make up this story about her having a sex dream about him. And then like, it's just a very awkward moment. And then like she gives him the leftovers, I think, and then runs, like literally
she
runs
kisses
back
him and
in
then runs away.
What it is.
Yeah.
She kisses him and then runs into the house, literally runs. It's so funny.
Yes. But we cut to like he's super happy there. He's out bowling with the family. I also love that like he's getting to know her and he loves her, but he's also like, I'm hanging with your old people. Like I'm here at the bowling alley. This is where I want to be, is with the people that you love. And he invites David Alan Grier to come. And David Alan Grier's like, what's all the old people? He's like, but these are her people. Like this is
this is who she hangs out with.
And also they're pretty great. Like they're fun people.
A blast.
David Alan Grier actually does sort of get absorbed into this friend group and like fits in really well. And like, I think he comes to learn why he hangs out with them. But it is like, I would be weirded out a little bit if like Mikey started dating a woman who like only hung out with people like octogenarians.
Right.
I'd be like, okay, what's the deal here? Like someone explain this to me.
Well, but it's also Bonnie Hunt and her husband. And
there's Bonnie.
Yeah.
She hangs out with their family a lot, which is fine. I mean, especially if you were really sick when you were younger, you didn't have a lot of time to make a lot of friends.
Well, and if you've got a big family like this where there's a lot of different people and a lot of different factions that you could hang out with, I fully get that.
Same.
And it reminds me of the family in While You Were Sleeping, where they just like adopt her and become her support system. I feel like that very much happens for David Duchovny in this movie too. And they're so excited that he scored a 68 bowling.
It is very funny because he's terrible at this.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm also very terrible at bowling.
The best score I think
same.
I've ever gotten is in the 120s. I'm very bad. I'm normally hoping to break 100.
I have this thing where it'll take me like 2 games to get warmed up. And then by game 3, I'm like, I think I figured it out. But no one ever bowls more than like 2 games.
I was going to say that. I was like, who bowls that long?
Yeah, I was like, that's like 4 hours of bowling. I mean,
it's like 4 hours of bowling. I've only ever done it once or twice where I was just like, yes, finally nailing it. And by then everyone's just done. Like no one's having fun anymore. So they all come back to the restaurant. Everybody eats. They send David Alan Grier home with leftovers. And then they go sit outside and they basically, are sitting by the patio with a candle. Inside, the old men are like arguing over which music to play, and they choose a live Sinatra album.
Yeah, I love that. And Minnie Driver's like embarrassed by them because it's clear what they're trying to do. But David Duchovny's like, I get it. I understand what's happening in there and why they're doing this.
And I like that I have their support.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But he's like, but also, I'm here for that. Like that. I'm interested in where this is going. I'm super into you. Love the family. Like, I could see this working out long term, So he's like just very comfortable with it, whereas she is very nervous about it.
Absolutely. And they all end up dancing together, which is very, very, very cute and fun.
I don't know why, but I love old people, not necessarily dudes, but old people being silly in movies.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite things. It's one of the reasons I love Betty White later in life.
And her prank show Off Their Rockers.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a real show.
It is. But the 4 guys like dancing with each other and just being silly, I love it so much.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for nuns having fun.
Which we get later in this movie, Paige.
We get later in this movie. There's a series of photographs. You can find them in most Buca de Beppos. And there's a lot of black and white photos of nuns like playing hopscotch or on bicycles.
Yeah.
And I think those are very fun. So we cut to David Duchovny's house. He's scrambling to clean his house.
Well, because now he has a reason to clean his house. He's no longer like sad, depressed all the time. He's wanting to, invite Minnie Driver over.
Yeah. And we get a montage of like he's building stuff for them in the garden. They have a huge family party in that backyard.
Yeah.
They're finishing up the gorilla enclosure and they're going to have the dedication. And he wants her and the entire family to be there. And then she basically is going to make him dinner and tell him what's up.
Yeah. And it really does seem like they've been dating for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty ingrained into the family unit too at this point. Like, the reason I bring that up is because they've been dating longer than I think adults would be dating before they had sex. So he would have known about that scar. But I mean, this probably also would be her first time. So maybe it's like,
I don't think they had sex until way later on.
No, they clearly didn't.
But also, so here's why it didn't bother me. A, this movie is 23 years old.
That is true. Yes. Yeah.
B, when he tells her about his wife, he and his wife have known each other since they were children.
Yeah.
And that I would assume from the way he talks about her was his only ever sexual partner.
Oh, yeah, because they met when they were 15 or started dating when they were 15 or whatever. Yeah.
So I think you could definitely make an argument of him being like, it's okay to wait because this would be a big step for me also.
Yeah.
And I also think that it is her first time because she's been sick since she was a teenager. So for me, it did not bother me that much because I felt like those were 2 people who probably would have discussed that and been like, we're going to wait this out a bit.
Yeah, we don't get that scene. I don't necessarily think we need it, but
I don't think so either.
That makes so much sense to me too, Paige. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she's supposed to tell him that night. And David Alan Grier is like, she's playing with you. Like, she's making you hold out to reel you in. And he's like, well, I'm reeled in. Like,
I loved that response to David Alan Grier's like accusation sort of there. He's like,
right.
I'm reeled. Like, I'm not looking for an exit strategy. Like, I am not going anywhere.
Yeah. I enjoy her.
Yeah. And he even says, I like the family. Like, I enjoy her. I love the family.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm in this.
And to get back at him, he tells a group of racist white children that he is Sammy Sosa and runs away.
Yeah, I have a Sammy Sosa story.
Have you met Sammy Sosa?
Not really, but
okay.
When I was in the bands, high school band, sorry, this is like forever ago, I was at a Cubs game. Like we all went to a Cubs game because we had a competition in Chicago. So the whole band, like 400 of us went to a Cubs game. Sammy Sosa was there. He wasn't playing. Someone saw him and they were like, oh my God, that's Sammy Sosa. and he took his hat off and threw it down. And my friend Ryan caught it.
Whoa.
And then someone came down from the Cubs, like someone who worked there, and said, who caught Sammy's hat? And his name was on the inside of it, so he could prove it. He caught it.
Yeah.
And he was like, cool. You get to watch the game with Sammy Sosa.
What?
And they
really?
brought him. Yeah, they brought Ryan up to, I don't know if it was the owner's box, but like the VIP section.
Yeah, for sure.
He watched the whole game with Sammy Sosa, and he was like, we talked the whole time. He was super nice. They have the best food up there. Like,
oh yeah, that's the good shit.
it was such I don't follow baseball. Like, I didn't know Sammy Sosa was a big deal at the time. Like, I was so blown away by like that. I'll never forget it. Like, I'll never forget that Sammy Sosa story.
That's wild.
That's so
Crazy,
funny.
right?
But that VIP box was the best place to experience Pitbull, my idol, Mr. Worldwide.
But the kids do fall for it, which honestly, if it was David Allen Greer up there and me as a 15-year-old kid doesn't know sports at all, I'd be like, oh, I guess. I don't know.
I guess maybe.
Yeah. You could have pointed at anybody and told me that and I'd have bought it.
So we cut to she's telling Bonnie Hunt that she's going to tell him tonight.
Yeah.
And Jim Belushi comes in and does a weird belly dance that is uncomfortable but hilarious.
Which is normally how I describe Jim Belushi's comedy.
Uncomfortable and hilarious.
And sometimes it's just uncomfortable and not funny, but sometimes it is. And this is one of those times it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah, it was a good scene.
We cut to David Duchovny's house later that night where he does not know how to use the microwave. And I was like, oh my God, is he related to my sorority sister?
I literally wrote that in my notes. I was like, did David Duchovny go to Paige's sorority? Because not only does he burn the shit out of that popcorn, Paige,
yes,
he tries to hide it in the oven.
In the oven?
It is insane. And like him trying to get it in the microwave is bonkers too, because he just takes like a whole package of like 3 popcorns, cellophane together in the microwave, and then turns it on. Like,
yes,
this is an unhinged, deranged person trying to make popcorn. Like this, the direction the director must have given David Duchovny is pretend you're an alien who doesn't know what popcorn is or a microwave is, but you've been asked to pass as human and to make popcorn. Go.
It reminded me of Richard Gere in All Technology.
In Pretty Woman?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is also kind of how I felt the first time we heard that girl at the sorority make weird popcorn mistakes, because we're all sitting in the living room, which was right off the kitchen. And we're like, do you guys smell burning? And she's like, oh yeah, I was trying to make popcorn. We're like, how long did you put it in for? She's like, oh, I don't know, 6 minutes. I was like, what? And then there was just like smoke billowing out of the microwave.
And then the kitchen explodes. Yeah.
So he burns the popcorn. He asks her to go get some music upstairs that's in his pocket, in his jacket. And she goes up and sees a newspaper article about his wife and finds out about the accident, and then finds her letter on his desk.
Yeah. Which I fully believe she was going to tell him that night. But this...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But learning for her that she had the heart that was David Duchovny's wife's, like,
yes,
she needs to process that too. So
oh my God. Well,
it's so weird.
Yeah.
When she ends up at Bonnie Hunt's house and the first thing she says is, why would God do this? I'm like, that's the most accurate line. That's the very next scene.
Yeah, because she is like, she's got to get out of there. She's like very like,
oh yeah,
making excuses. I got to babysit. I got to go. And David Duchovny, I think, senses something is wrong, does not know what it is, obviously.
Yeah,
and then like helps her outside, and she makes a comment about how her bike is old, which will come back later. And she goes off down the street on her bike. Right. But it does then smash cut to her at Bonnie Hunt's place saying, why is God so mean or something?
Well, she says, what was God thinking?
That's what it is.
What she says.
So
what
funny.
was God thinking? And it's just like sobbing. And Bonnie Hunt is like, I can't even, like, how do you console someone?
Dude, when Jim Belushi comes in and is like, he's married, I'm going to kick his ass.
I'll
like,
kick
don't
his
you
ass.
worry about it, Mini Driver. I'm going to go over there right now and kick his ass. And of course, his kids are starting to swear too because they've been doing that the whole movie. It's so funny. And then like Bonnie gets up to like calm him down. Like, it's not that. And then she just yells,
Yeah.
Minnie
Grace
Driver has
Bob's dead
dad's
wife's heart.
Yeah. Fuck, dude, it's so funny. Because the whole impetus of that scene, the whole reason that scene is going on is because it's like a reprise of the scene before when Minnie Driver was like, I don't even know how to tell him. We have to come up with this way to tell him. And then Bonnie just in like 8 words explains it perfectly. It's so funny.
Yeah, but then everyone is like, oh shit, well, how do you tell somebody that? Like this.
But I love that it immediately calms Belushi down. Like he was like at 11 about to drive over there and punch the company in the face.
Yes.
And he's now like, oh no, I get that. That is weird. Like, yeah, I get why you guys are freaking out, but like that ain't his fault. Yeah, he's cool. He's cool in my book.
Yeah, he's cool. Like, he didn't hurt you deliberately, and therefore I should not harm him. Anyway, so we cut to the next day where she's kind of invited him over and she's like, I'm going to tell him, and then I'm going to tell him that I'm going to leave and I'm going to go to Italy. And her grandfather's like, well, I called Fabrizio. He'll pick you up. And I was like, why does her Irish grandfather know so many people in Italy?
Yeah.
Because he's in the witness protection program.
My Italian grandparents didn't even know that many people in Italy.
But he's like, look up Fabrizio when you're there. Like he's like naming
he's definitely
people.
the only Fabrizio in Italy. Anyways, so, and he does this whole like, I'll be there in the fall, like, don't worry about it. And she's like, it'll be okay. I'm going to go. It'll be better if I go.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be fucking weird for him.
Yes.
And it's not that no one is like, he's going to leave her and he's an asshole for that. Everyone is just kind of like, this is the weirdest situation ever. And how would you even deal? And we understand he's going to need time to process. So everyone's going to be sad, but nobody's angry, which I kind of was like, yes.
It sort of had the vibe that like they were falling in love and found out that they were first cousins. Like,
yes!
It's no one's fault, but we understand
really
why
does.
they can't be together anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Or why they're going to need some time to figure shit out.
Well, yeah. The fact that they end up together is very unlike the first cousin scenario. I really just mean this one scene is like that.
Right. Anyway, so she tells him and it's just like, I'm really, really sorry. I wanted to tell you. And he interrupts her and says something real transphobic and not great because this movie is 23 years old, where he says, I was afraid you were going to tell me you were a man or something.
Well, because she said she had an operation. Like she's just trying to build up to what he's trying to say. And then when she gets out that she had a heart transplant, he's like, oh, thank God. And then he reveals that he's transphobic or whatever. I mean, it is 23 years ago, and I completely understood why that was in this movie because that was so of the time.
Yeah, which I don't love it, but whatever. It's,
Yeah.
But so she's like, no, I had a heart transplant and it's your wife's heart and I didn't know and I found out and I'm so sorry. And he just says, okay, I gotta walk.
Yeah.
Which I thought, I was like, yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
That's crazy information.
But like he accepts this information in such a great way. Like he doesn't at all get mad. He's just like, okay, I hear you, but also I can feel my brain wrinkling, so I have to go for a walk. Like,
I have a nosebleed and I'm worried that my eyes are going to roll back in my head, so I just need to like back away for a second.
I'm going to need 24 to 48 hours. And she does tell him in the scene, I'm leaving to go to Italy. I'm leaving tonight. So she does put like a timeline on it, which makes sense why they are sort of waiting for him to come stop her from going that night.
Right.
And he doesn't. But like I understood why they were waiting there, and I sort of loved that they were waiting there. I thought that was sweet.
Well, and I fully also understand him not stopping her because like that's not something you could come to terms with in 24 hours. Like,
no.
So we cut to Rome and she's in bed staring out the window. He's sitting on one of his buildings, which seems dangerous, but like they're both kind of just processing.
Yeah, they really are like by themselves thinking about what happened to them. Like no one actively did this to them, like this just happened to them. And I think that that's such an interesting look at this kind of a movie. Yeah. Because normally like one of them is being a certain kind of way and that causes problems.
Right.
But that's not at all this vibe. And I love that.
Exactly.
That's not this vibe. And he calls David Alan Grier to be like, I need to talk to somebody about something, but not over the phone. I was like, what, is the CIA listening? Like, dude.
I do love that there is a complex through line about David Duchovny's like conspiracy theories that he has, but all of that's cut out. But that's the one nod to it. Yeah.
This is the one. But so this is where we get the trade-off of like, he's telling David Alan Grier, she's telling this waiter at this cafe where she's supposed to be painting. And it's just like, wow, yeah, Mamma Mia, see, Mamma Mia, see.
We actually talked about this scene earlier because it's like cutting back between David Allen Greer and the waiter hearing it for the first time, and it's very funny reactions. I loved it. It was great.
Yes, but we cut back to the restaurant where the old guys are having their fun club. Sophie and Wally are gonna walk home. He doesn't open the door for her, and then like has to kind of backtrack and open the door, and she's just like, the door, Wally. It's very fun.
It is great.
Anyway, David Duchovny pulls up and they see him coming and they're like, oh, get back inside. Everybody get back inside. And they're like, it's him. He's here. What do we do?
That was so funny. I mean, at this point, Minnie Driver's already in Italy. I mean, I assumed that she had been there for like a week.
They said 2 days ago. She's been there for 2 days.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, the dedication is next week. I need you all to be there. I will always miss my wife, but I ache for Grace. And I was just like, oh my God.
It's so like, but that is so accurate because like their relationship, him and his wife's relationship just never, I mean, they got closure. He got closure because she passed away, but like he's never going to lose those love feelings he has for her.
Right.
Which I think it's great to acknowledge, but like he also has to live in the world that is today. And today he's in love with Grace. And I loved that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think you should have been like, I wish you had my wife's ass too.
Oh no.
Because they set it up at the beginning.
They did.
They did.
Yeah. But he and her grandfather go out to the garden. And my favorite is Angelo peeping. And is just like, he's got him in a chokehold. Don't do it.
I just love old men doing bits or old people doing bits to me as like comedy pay dirt. Like you cannot have an unfunny one. It's so good.
But her grandfather's just like, hey, I know what happened to y'all was overwhelming and crazy, but I also know that you'll sort it out and she loves you and we love you, so figure it out. Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing this is missing is him giving him the plane ticket.
Yeah.
But I also think he doesn't need it because he's rich.
Yeah.
So whatever.
It's just the gesture of it I would have liked. We talked about that earlier, but yeah, no, I agree completely.
Yeah, but this is where he says, like, maybe that heart was meant to be with you always. And I was like,
oh, Paige.
like, maybe it was.
Literally from the scene where David Duchovny learns that is his passed away's wife's heart.
Yes.
And had just given Minnie Driver a bike. We didn't even talk about that. In that scene, he's bringing her a bike.
That she somehow takes to Italy.
No, they ship it over for her.
That's the part that annoyed me.
I loved it though. But I cried from that scene on. I did not stop crying.
You just couldn't do that. You could not take a bike like that somewhere.
FedEx exists, man. Like you could definitely do that.
But she's also been there only 2 days, which means she would have had to wait for it to get there, like weeks to get there. And it implies that she took it on the plane and like checked it on the plane. And I was like, I was in Italy 5 years after this movie, and I was like, can I bring peanut butter? Because things had changed so much after 9/11.
No, but like a lot happened in that time between.
So much. So we cut to her painting in a square, and the nuns are like playing on her bike. And David Duchovny sees the bike, because now he's in Italy, and rides the nun back to her. And she's like, you came all the way to Italy. And he's like, of course I did.
Yeah.
I love you. And the nuns are like, oh, but when's it my turn on that bike? And
I did love that David Duchovny foils this pretend nun bike thievery ring.
They're just going to tuck it into one of their habits. Well, and it does look like when it pulls back, it's funny because she's supposed to be in Rome. Like they talk about Rome as if that's where she's going. But when they pull back, it definitely looks like Venice. And specifically, it looks like the front of the building they use as the library in Indiana Jones, which, by the way, if you ever get a chance to go to Venice, this was my favorite part of Venice, was we took a gondola ride and the guy was just like, so that was an Indiana Jones. That was an Indiana Jones. And I was like, yes. Oh my God, yes.
If you're in Venice, make sure you take the historical Indiana Jones tour.
Jones ride. Make sure that you get scammed into paying 4 times as much for a gondola ride as you probably needed to, because the guy spoke English and was like, I'll show you the Indiana Jones shit.
Honestly, worth it.
That does sound worth it.
Venice is really cool. I really liked Venice when I went. Anyway, so we cut to the dedication of the gorilla enclosure. And this is where we get the guy who's like, you may remember me from my photo in the monkey house.
I love that guy. Like, that dude isn't acting. He is just that guy. That's the level at which he is committed to being this character. And I fucking love it. It's amazing.
He's just excited to have his picture in the monkey house. And like, how can you blame him?
I don't blame him. Because I would be at every party being like, you may remember me from the Nashville Zoo.
I'm in the reptile enclosure with a picture that just says trouser snake, American male.
I love it.
Anyway, so they're all there and Sydney gets his enclosure and they dedicate it to her memory. We cut to the restaurant where they're having a wedding for Wally and Sophie. I did like that it was Wally and Sophie's wedding, not Minnie Driver and David Duchovny's wedding, where it's basically they're still going to figure their shit out. Like, we are still at the beginning of their relationship, basically. But for Wally and Sophie, who've known each other for years, it's their fun wedding.
And that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you guys think about Return to Me?
I really liked it.
I enjoyed it very, very much. Yeah, I loved it a lot.
Yeah, it is such a Mikey movie in premise, but such an amazing movie.
Yeah. They pulled it off.
Yeah.
But you should not be able to pull off this script.
Yes.
I didn't realize that Bonnie Hunt directed and also helped write this. I didn't realize that Bonnie Hunt was that level of like amazing as a like creator, not just an actress.
Yeah.
Like I did know that she turned down SNL. Like that's the kind of like trajectory she was on, and she turned down SNL to go into movies and take more of a, she's still funny in the movies she's in, but more of an actress lane.
Well, and she had her own show for a while too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She made some different choices.
Yeah, this movie's great. But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, hit us with your fun facts.
Italian Irish fun facts.
Yeah, exactly.
So O'Reilly's Italian Restaurant, which is that is a hilarious name because it's like the most Irish Italian restaurant, is actually a Chicago landmark eatery known as the Twin Anchors. That's where they filmed it. It doesn't specifically say if it's hardcore Italian Irish like that, but it sounds like it's got a little bit of both camps on the menu. So the gorilla in the movie who plays Sydney is a gorilla named Quan, who still lives at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago.
Is that his real enclosure at the end that they show?
Yes. And
nice.
He's fathered, 6 different offspring. So he's part of their program to help preserve gorillas in the wild.
Yeah, awesome.
And as of spring of 2022, he is 33 years old.
Oh, wow. So he was
still kicking it.
A pretty young man at this point in this movie. He was 10.
He is kicking
He was only 10, yeah.
Nice.
So, like, Jim Belushi's role was originally offered to Jon Favreau, and he declined because he didn't want to play a supporting character in the film. He wanted David Duchovny's role, which would be a very different vibe.
It would.
That would be a different vibe.
I think David Duchovny does a great job in this, but I love Jon Favreau too. Like, he's great.
Well, I feel, this sounds terrible, I feel like Jon Favreau in Jim Belushi's role, I would love.
Me too.
I think he would have done great.
Yeah. There's a rom-com we did where he plays one of the two brothers. He's Vince Vaughn's brother.
It's Four Christmases.
Yes.
Which is a terrible rom-com, but he and his wife are hilarious.
Exactly.
In it.
So good.
Or the woman who plays his wife.
They're like the only light in that dark, dark movie. And if you got that same energy, but it's Bonnie Hunt instead of whoever played his wife and younger Jon Favreau, I would have loved it. But I understand why he turned it down. Like, that's a career decision. So, like, I get it. But I also would have loved to see that.
Yes. So the zoo mailbox, which we briefly see in a couple different scenes, was actually a production prop. And it's the one that she drops her letter in on the way to the zoo. So it's not a real mailbox. It doesn't actually exist. But while they were filming, it had to be there in backgrounds of shots for establishing shots and things. And they had to stop people from putting their actual mail into it for some reason. Like, we don't know why people were showing up to the zoo with their mail, but enough people were that they had to like station a production staff member there to be like, this is not a real mailbox. Please don't put things in there.
They're just like, I like to mail my letters to the animals.
But also, like, good job set deck for making it look that realistic. Like,
yeah, the people were just like,
they were falling for it. Yeah. They were like, oh shit, I was going to go to the mailbox after I took the kids to the zoo. But if there's one here, I'll just use this one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When he takes her to see the panoramic view of Chicago at night, it is from the rooftop of 333 Wacker Drive in downtown Chicago. So if you want to go, that's where it is.
Nice.
The dog, Mel, was played by an American bulldog named Petey.
Oh, Petey. He's super cute, man, and does a great job.
Also potentially offered the role instead of David Duchovny was George Clooney.
I could see that too. And
I could see that too.
George Clooney, that would have been good. But again, David Duchovny crushes this.
He does. And David Alan Grier and Bonnie Hunt, this was actually not the first time they had worked together. They had previously worked together on Jumanji
Oh,
with Robin
yeah.
Williams. There is a scene at 1 hour and 11 minutes and 8 seconds in where David Duchovny looks straight at the camera.
Oh, really?
For like enough that you can like see it.
Sure.
And they didn't cut it out. So
awesome.
That's kind of fun.
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Now, early in the movie, Angela tells Grace that it's been a year since her surgery and her scar was barely noticeable. However, if we track the time in the movie from other people mentioning it, it's been less than a year because when she reads the newspaper dated 4/12, it says that she died 4/12/1999, which was exactly a year previous, which means that when she's finding out, it's now a year. So, call it 2-3 months shy or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way to determine what Bob's correct bowling score was in the movie.
Okay.
Because just before he bowls his last turn, they say that his high score is 67 up until now, and bowling is progressive. So, like, as you bowl, you actually score based on previous frames.
Yeah, if you get a strike or a spare, yeah.
Right. The group chants 68, hoping that he'll knock at least one pin down, but he misses. But then the second frame, he actually knocks down 3 pins.
It looks like it was 3. Yeah, it's like the corner 3.
Yes, which would have put him at 69.
Yeah, it would.
But later at the restaurant, 2 aprons have been hung that say 68 in pasta sauce. But if it was 67, then they would have been 70. Or if it was 66, then they should have been 69.
Yeah.
So there's no way to know. And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Before we get into box office, while we were talking about Mr. Bennington, I went down a little rabbit hole on him. Can I tell you about Mr. Bennington, or the guy who played Mr. Bennington? So he is a guy who was very established in advertising, made a shitload of money in advertising in the 60s and 70s, and then sold his business and then got into acting because he liked acting. But he didn't start until late in life. And this was his last movie. The movie right before this, he was in, and his son starred in it. It was High Fidelity.
What?
Mr. Bennington was played by John Cusack's father, a man named Dick Cusack. That is nuts.
We haven't done High Fidelity either. That's a wild movie.
It is a wild movie, and we need to do it at some point. But
yes.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, there's no way I just stumbled upon John Cusack's dad. And I did. So anyway, but let's talk about box office. So this movie came out in the year 2000. What do you think the budget for Return to Me was?
In 2000, I'm going to say this is largely a single location movie.
Okay.
Like there is some stuff outside and there's some stuff at the zoo, but so much takes place at the restaurant.
A lot of it does. A lot of it at the zoo, which are both of those are probably, well, no, the enclosure was actually at the zoo. So like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they do go international in this movie.
They do go international, or at least they make it look like they did, although it very much could definitely be the Universal backlot.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
It's possible, yeah.
I'm going to say this is $10 million.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think?
I'm going to say it's $22 million.
Mikey, you are actually way closer. It's $24 million.
That makes sense for the amount of people in this.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of actors, a lot of lines. Yeah, that makes sense.
If you adjust that for inflation, it's 41.9, almost $42 million today. Now, this movie premiered on April 7th, 2000, and it was number 4 in the theaters that weekend out. It was beat by the number one movie, Rules of Engagement. Number 2, Aaron Brockovich. Number 3 was The Road to El Dorado. Number 4 was, of course, Return to Me. And number 5 was The Skulls, which I definitely saw in the theater.
Everybody saw The Skulls.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's the Skulls?
Joshua Jackson, where he goes to, and joins the secret society.
The Skull and Bones Society. Yes. But it's like if the CW produced a movie about the Skull and Bones Society. Yeah, it's that.
I remember now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so what do you think Return to Me made in its opening weekend? And again, that was April 7th, 2000.
I'm going to say $4 million.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think?
$20 million.
Mikey's a little high. Paige is a little closer. It's $7.8 million.
Oh, man. I was hoping it'd be a big hit.
In its opening weekend. Yeah, it wasn't a super big hit, but it was in the theater for 24 weeks. It was never again in the top 5, though. So it was only in the top 5 in its first weekend out. But what do you think it made total at the box office?
$18 million.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think?
I think it made like $30 million.
Okay, Mikey, you're closer. It was $32.6 million. It didn't, that I can tell, get an international release, or at least there's no numbers attached to an international release here, but it did make money. I'm not sure how much they spent on marketing, but it did make a little bit more than its initial budget. And if you adjust that 32.6 for inflation today, that's $57 million today. But that's your box office. So this week, I made you guys watch Return to Me. Paige, what are you making us watch next week?
Now, I know I talked about The Bodyguard, and I do still want to do that at some point. I did not forget you. But I found out that one of the picks that I wanted is streaming now. It was not when we originally looked. And then there was this weird thing where I could only get it to stream on one device. But now, I double-checked it yesterday. It is streaming on Amazon for all devices. And that is On the Line, starring NSYNC's Lance Bass.
I hate you and love you for picking this. I hate that I'm going to have to watch it, but I love that I'm going to get to talk about it for 2 hours.
This will make you feel better. It's only 85 minutes long.
Okay, I feel better.
It is terrible. It is not a good movie.
I also need to warn you that this is one of the 2 episodes we have to record while we're together.
Excited.
At Panic Fest. So we will be watching this movie together in our Airbnb.
I can't wait.
So excited.
We'll get a bunch of snacks, Mikey. And Mikey, it's not a musical.
I'm back in.
It's just bonkers madness.
Yeah, it's back at a time when people were like, oh yeah, the third-rate guy from NSYNC, he could be a movie star, right?
Yes. And here's the thing.
No.
And here's what's terrible. Having seen Bros and other things where Lance has popped up as like cameo, he can do it when he gets to be his authentic self.
Yes.
But in this movie, he is a closeted gay man trying to play off as a romantic comedy lead. And for I assume a production company that was desperately trying to counteract the rumors about his sexuality.
And listen, he's no Rock Hudson is what we're saying. You know what I'm saying?
All I'm saying is that, like, I think Lance has found his place now, and that makes me very happy.
Me too.
That he can be who he authentically is. That is great. This movie occurs at a time when that was not the case, and it definitely suffers for it.
Love it. Well, your homework for next week is to watch Lance Bass do his best Rock Hudson impression in the movie On the Line.
With Emmanuelle Chiriqui, who you may remember from The Night Before Christmas as the sister who was embezzling from her boutique.
For reasons, I know who that is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
I don't.
Well, while you're looking one up, let me tell them how they can have their review read on the podcast, and that is to leave us a 5-star text review, and we'll have Mikey read it for you. So, Mikey, whose review are you going to read this week?
Okay. Tadell says, laughing out loud 24/7.
Love it.
I love this podcast. As an active listener of the Horror Virgin, Romancing the Pod is such a great show, and they have the Italian hand.
Italian hands. You're supposed to read it in a Mario
emoji. I didn't know it was an emoji, but now I love it. I love everyone's chemistry, reviews, and jokes that keep me cackling. By far, my favorite episodes to revisit are the Twilight series laughing emoji.
Of course.
5 stars.
Jackie Zabrowski's on those, and she's always hilarious. Well, Tato, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want to have Mikey read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review. So, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin, and that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on, but Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show.
Yes.
On Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show, SHO, like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at M Randolph 24, and I am at Todd J Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us
to completion.
I want my dog to wait for you at the door.
Bye!
Because you're trying to kill me. And I need my dog to protect me.
Nerds!
La, 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 la.